What is up? Welcome back to the Brave in the Attempt podcast. I'm your host, Wyatt Spalding, and today we're joined by Boys Town Rehabilitation uh, Rehabilitation Director, Brad Corr. Brad, how's it going?
Good. Good to see you. Thanks, Wyatt.
Yeah, so quick story on me and Brad. I met Brad through Boys Town. I was a patient of his last fall, I think it was.
Sounds right.
And yeah, we did a lot of cool exercises and training. I'd call it training more than physical therapy because it sounds way better. And that's what it was. And I noticed that my right leg, especially, got a lot stronger while training with Brad. And I even took some of the exercise that we did and do them at home now. So
Yeah. It was awesome to see your videos of you making up your own versions and getting creative with your own equipment and continuing to do things. That's cool.
yeah, my favorite thing was we'll get into it later, but like the sled, that was fun.
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
asking you like, how much does one of these cost? And you
Yeah.
told me, and I was like, I'll make my own.
Yeah. Yeah. Creativity is less expensive. Yes, for sure.
Exactly. So, Brad, why don't you just tell us a little about yourself, where you grew up, and kind of how you got involved in athletics?
Yeah. Yeah. So Brad Corr again, and I am the Associate Director of Physical Rehabilitation here at Boys Town and help run this clinic here that we have, the physical therapy clinic. It's kind of a unique place in that it's a partnership with research. So what we say is that we do full clinical translational research, and that's a mouthful of academic terms. But really, what it means is when people find cutting edge discoveries in research, it takes a long time for that information to actually get put into play so that it impacts patient care. But because of the relationship that we have with Dr. Kurz and the Power Lab and the Institute for Human Neuroscience here at Boys Town, we can take information that we find out about how people learn or what can impact the brain and how people move the most and really just put it in play in real time. So one conversation between the two of us, and the next thing we know, we're trying stuff out, getting feedback from patients and participants, and going back and seeing what's our next question, what can we try to look for or discover next to help people with their mobility. So it's pretty unique in that regard. What got me here is kind of like everybody's story, a little bit convoluted, right? Like nobody's path is ever really truly linear and straight. But I grew up in a small town between Lincoln and Omaha, and continue to live there now, actually, in Eagle, Nebraska. So grew up a Class B Waverly Vikes high school guy, and enjoyed sport kind of from a very, very, very young age. So um, I actually went to undergrad at Nebraska Wesleyan University in Lincoln and was interested in athletic training at the time. So did my student athletic training there and got to work with college athletes and do a lot of really fun stuff, trying to help people continue to play and play sport, and did my athletic training certification. And then I moved to Omaha and worked in a physical therapy clinic, but as an athletic trainer. So I did kind of like tech work in the clinic or aid work in the clinic, just helping the physical therapists out, helping patients with some of their exercise programs, and then doing kind of more remote work where I worked with a local gymnastics gym and did some injury prevention and some rehabilitation kind of with them. And then also did like covering Friday night football and wrestling matches. Kind of my favorite are those small school teams. So like I love a C1 wrestling match. That's super fun. Love seeing those athletes compete at that level. So going and covering sport a lot. And the reality is that the life and the schedule of an athletic trainer is hard. Those guys go to work when everybody else goes to play. If you think about it, when you tune into a sporting match, that's your leisure time, right? That's when your hangout time. Well, those guys are going to work then. And they probably worked for 2 to 3 hours before that, getting everything ready. And then they're stuck there after that, late into the night, if not the next morning, kind of working to clean up or get athletes back home, things like that. So it was hard to be a family guy and live that lifestyle. So physical therapy allowed me the opportunity to kind of work a more regular schedule, but still be involved in that kind of variety of sport. And so I kind of pursued that, thinking that I was kind of probably going all in on sports medicine and going to be working with athletes. I had worked with some professional athletes as an athletic trainer in that PT clinic, so really liked that sort of high level competition, people who are constantly pushing themselves to the next level, and thought that was going to be my jam. And then went to PT school and got a flavor of something different. And uh, yeah, I could probably continue to ramble if you want me to keep going
No,
into
that's,
detail, or if you
yeah.
want
I
some.
mean,
Yeah, okay. So in physical therapy school, then the way that it works for physical therapy school is you do kind of your classroom work, and then you go out on what they call clinical rotations. So you try to pick some sites that you like, but they also tell you that they're going to stick you in places that you might not be comfortable. So you get exposed to some things that you don't know. Um, and I come from a family of educators, really. My dad was an elementary school principal. My mom worked in early childhood education. I have a sister who's in early childhood education. So teaching was kind of a thing, and kids have always kind of been a thing. So I did a pediatric rotation and just loved it. I love development. I love watching even everything from infants, just discovering things and exploring things. And I find it fascinating how, I mean, if you picture a baby just like laying on their back, kicking and moving in what seems like just nonsense, that baby is like making sense of all that movement to the point where, then they can become this ambulatory or finely tuned human that can do all these other things. It's pretty remarkable, actually, that all that happens. So I found that really interesting. And through that clinical rotation, I had great mentors who were able to provide care for kids as well as do research. And I found that really interesting, because then you're just constantly consuming new information, challenging yourself as a provider of, am I doing the best for my patients? Are there things that I need to be changing? What's new information that we're learning about people and how they move and how they learn? That we need to try out for our patients to make sure they're getting the best care. And so that sort of clinical research blend was really fascinating to me. So, pediatrics was the thing for me. So I worked in pediatrics then for a while. Man, maybe close to 10 years actually. And then my wife and I started having kids, and we wanted to flex our schedule so that we could be home and working in that kind of academic research setting. Flexible schedule just really wasn't an opportunity. So I actually stepped out of it and did home health care. And I got to do some really cool things with cardiac rehab, people who had heart transplants, mechanical heart pump placements, and then just sort of other, you know, total knee replacement, other kind of joint things, and then just other health related things that where people were stuck at home. And I think that while that was kind of a tangent to my career, it really helped me understand some of the barriers of, here I am prior to this in this like academic setting, the school setting, big major research institution, and I have basically every resource at my fingertip. If I wanted to know something, I could get that information at the snap of a finger, or if I wanted to try something, there was somebody close to me uh, that had some kind of resource that I could use to do the thing that was really cool that I wanted to do. And then I go to home health care, and I'm literally just a guy in somebody's living room, and I have nothing. I have like my backpack that I bring with me. Maybe I have some resistance bands, maybe I don't.
mhm.
But and the people that I'm taking care of, like probably have very little in their home as well, right? Many of them weren't physically active, and that's part of what led them down this sort of unhealthy path that requires them to be stuck at home now. So trying to help them and trying to be creative with very little resource at hand, and trying to help people who are like almost literally stuck in their homes, um, kind of find joy in moving, was a huge challenge. But I think opened my eyes a lot to uh, this huge disparity of maybe what I was telling patients when I was working in a clinic, what I was telling them to do, and the reality of what could actually happen when they got home. You
Mm.
know, when you're in a clinic, you think everybody has everything you have, or what you're saying just makes perfect sense and they can just go put it in play at home. And then when you're in that home setting, I think you have a better appreciation for the barriers for people who maybe really want to do everything that you're telling them to do, but just don't have the things there at home to be able to get that done. So that was pretty formidable. And I was fortunate enough then to get invited back into that same academic setting with a more flexible schedule, um, and with the assignment to create programs, physical therapy programs for adults with developmental disabilities. So there was a recognized need that there was a disparity that people were transitioning out of pediatric care and they weren't sure where to go. So what would good programs look like? And we got to do some cool programs and we did some research projects, but also just providing care and recognizing kind of where problems exist, how to fill that gap, um, was a great opportunity. Um, and then this opportunity arrived to continue to pursue research and clinical practice and keep those things married, um, with some great resources at hand here at Boys Town. So uh, Boys Town is a huge pediatric provider, provides a great deal of pediatric care here in our city. And the neuroscientists that I work with recognize the need and the disparity for individuals with developmental disabilities in how we do programming and how we do healthcare for them. So this was a great space to try to fill a gap where I can continue to see adolescents and adults, but also sort of that pediatric care, and as well as my colleagues providing additional pediatric care here at Boys Town. So that's kind of how it's a long story, hopefully interesting enough, but that's essentially how I landed here at Boys Town. And now I'm just really grateful to be here and really grateful for my colleagues here. Um, I have to give mention to Katie Bemis, my colleague physical therapist here, who had a different background coming. So she did not come out of a development or a pediatric background. She came from neurological rehab. So people who were probably typically developing without disability and then had some sort of injury or something and acquired an injury. And um, those worlds are pretty different. You know, like the general population might look at an individual and the way that they move and think the individual who grew up with a disability and the one who acquired a disability maybe look very much the same to them. But the reality is their paths to get there at that life stage are so different, and
Yeah.
their worlds are very different. So, so I really appreciate some of the skills and the understanding that Katie brings and the challenges that she puts on me because, you know, there are times that she would be like, you know, well, in neuro rehab, we would just do this. Why don't you ever do this for individuals with disabilities? Or kind of her famous one is like, if you think of like um, some of the Paralympic things or rec therapy like things that they have for individuals who have a brain injury or a spinal cord injury or maybe a limb loss from an accident. They have like pretty cool stuff that
Yeah.
they've created for that. And then she's looking at the equipment that we use for kids who grow up with disabilities, and she's like, why is everything like stainless steel and clunky, like nothing looks cool. Why can't
Yeah.
why don't they make cool looking equipment? And why is everything so expensive and so out of reach for people? So it's been a fun challenge to try to get creative with how do we marry these two worlds and get, maybe some better resources to especially adolescents and young adults with disabilities, to help them stay active and do the things that they want to do.
Yeah, like that's pretty cool. Like if they do, like people that lost a limb, they have like these cool robotic stuff.
Yeah,
And then if you're like me and you have all your limbs, but one side doesn't work as well as the other, it's like here's this 100-pound clunky thing you gotta pull. And I'm just
strap on this
like,
giant plastic brace to your leg and good luck, right?
yeah, like I wore
Yeah.
a brace that was like white and like it would pinch you all the time. And then the only cool thing about it was one year I made a camo, but you would
Yeah,
just
yeah,
drag your foot. And then, I mean, the coolest thing I got now is like the walk aid, which
yep,
shocks the nerves. And
yep,
that's been the coolest, but then that's all clunky
yep,
and like gets disgusting because you wear
yep,
it all the time. So, yeah, it's just like, why people with intellectual and physical disabilities like me, like, why do we get all the clunky stuff?
yeah.
Right. And then,
I
like, your point of like at home, it's like we don't have that at home, but it is like you said, I made the sled. Like you had to get creative. I mean,
yeah,
basically.
yeah.
So
But I mean, that's to your credit, Wyatt. Like to have the ingenuity and the thought of like, okay, I really enjoy this thing. I can't continue to go to the clinic and do that. It's just not reasonable to do that. But how can I make it work at home? I
right.
mean, not everybody has that drive or that creativity, but it's also, I think, um, the responsibility of that therapist to recognize when those gaps exist and try to support. Okay, if you really do want to do this, let me ask enough questions to understand what the barriers are going to be when you get home, so that we can problem solve through that to support you, so that you can get creative, so that you
Mhm.
can use the things that you have laying around your house, um, to be active and do the things you want to do.
Yeah, like I have a friend that also has cerebral palsy and he's confined to a wheelchair and like it's in his legs a lot, but he lifts like 5 to 10 dumbbells every day to
Yep,
move. And it's like,
yep.
you think that's like the hardest? Like if someone's like confined to a wheelchair or their movements just like not as good as some other ones, like do you is it hard to find out like here's what you could do at home even though it's really hard for you to like move or you're confined to a wheelchair? What do you
Yep.
tell them?
Yeah. So that's a great question. And I have a vivid memory of an individual, uh, um, uh, an adult woman who came to me and was like, "Okay, you say that you do physical activity programming for individuals with disabilities, specifically adults with disabilities. Um, what do I need to do to stay physically active?" And she had very limited movement, like writes with her mouth,
Mhm.
and uses her powers her wheelchair with her mouth. She's like, what does that look like for me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's hard.
Yeah.
That's a good question, a good reasonable question. And how do I don't what's even the expectation there? So I think I think based on what I my experience and what I've kind of learned about development and activity in general, what we talk about is the enriched environment. So if you think of uh, a, a plain room with very little or nothing in it, there's only so much you can learn from that space, even no matter how much you move in it, right?
Mhm.
But if you think of a space that has a lot of things in it that you maybe have to navigate, that you can go check the things out that are in the room, um, that's a different environment, right? It's a rich environment. And I think one of our kind of richest environments that we have access to is the outdoors.
Right.
So just just going outside, almost every day it's different. Something about the outside is different. The weather is different. We're in a beautiful season here in Nebraska where things start to change and it looks really cool. So there's constant change, and those things help stimulate our brain and help stimulate our bodies in a way that helps keep us healthy. So now think about if you're driving your power wheelchair, and maybe it takes very little movement to drive your power wheelchair. But if you're driving it on a level, straight surface on a floor, there's very few challenges in that. If
Right.
you take it outside, even just on the sidewalk, rarely are you ever going to find a level sidewalk, especially in our region.
Yeah.
So now you're having to do some postural control while you're going. If you get crazy and you want to go off the beaten path a little bit and find an area that's, you know, maybe at a local park or something like that. Our state parks are working to be more accessible, even downtown for that matter. That the new mall and the way they've redone that, with some accessibility down there. So to just get outside, you encounter more people then. So just the stimulation that comes from observing others and things like that. I think while it's not our traditional thought of 20 to 30 minutes of physical activity, I think there is value in the getting outside, getting in a different environment, just moving around, even if it is using power mobility, to
Mhm.
move around in a different environment where you have to kind of think and challenge yourself in a different way, um, than just being sort of in your home. So that's kind of a little bit of a skirt of your answer of like, what do you do if you're stuck in your house? But I would make every attempt to even try to get into your yard or get out in the front of your house in the driveway when the weather's allows it, just to try to move around outside a little bit, moving the way that you know how to move.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even if you sit outside for an hour or 30 minutes, that's good too, because fresh air is good.
Yep,
You know,
absolutely.
winter's probably the worst time because we live in Nebraska. So I remember my brother would tell me to go outside. He's like, just go stand outside for like a couple minutes. Like, it's like 30 below. I'm not going outside. It's like, do you need that sunlight? It's like, I'll stand in the window.
Maybe I'll crack it open a little bit. I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know.
just like I'm
Yeah,
not getting like pneumonia.
yeah,
But
good plan.
yeah,
Good plan.
and it is hard, like, and people with disabilities, like for me, I have cerebral palsy, and some of us, or maybe half of us in special Olympics, like also have medical conditions. So if you get
Hmm.
sick, that's hard
Hmm.
too, because then it's like you're already out of shape. And then
Yeah,
have you ever like had somebody where they like were sick for a while and came back too hard and then got sick again? Because
yep,
I've done that, and it just
yep,
ruins your whole, like, you're just way behind then.
yep. So my motto, is low and slow.
Mm-hmm.
So we start with a little and we have success with a little for a time before we move on to the next step.
Mm-hmm.
Because of exactly what you said. I think mentally, it's just exhausting to feel better, try to go back to what you're doing, and then get set back right to where you started when you weren't feeling well again. Like it's almost more difficult than the physical recovery part because you just get so down about like, oh, I thought I was better and now
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. What did maybe I didn't understand, maybe I was wrong. You just start all these thoughts that, are just not helpful. But if we can start with a little and have a success with a little before we progress to the next step, that feeds that cycle of, okay, I got this,
Yeah.
and I'm ready to try the next thing. And those little increments, I think, are a better way to keep that trajectory of going kind of up and to the right rather than this kind of roller coaster of I feel better, I feel worse, I feel better, I feel worse. Because that's just not a fun place to get stuck.
Dealing with people with like cerebral palsy and just other disabilities, do you find it frustrating? Because like you're supposed to like help them get into shape, but then if you have like, I don't know, like a back problem or like some other physical limitation holding you back, and then you can't get the health care you need, is that just like really frustrate you? And like, man, I want to help you, and I wish the doctors would just like help you. Your sometimes insurance, and it's like
Yep,
we're trying to work out, but it's like we physically cannot because we can't
yep,
get the medical care.
yep. I think it's definitely hard, and I had conversations even yet this week, and have ongoing conversations. I think we're we're succeeding a little bit in that more people are talking about and recognizing the healthcare disparity, as it relates to adults with developmental disabilities and trying to access care. Um, but just my frustration is just talking about the problem isn't a solution. So
Yeah.
yeah, we can do great things to document the number of gaps and problems, but until we get people on board with like actually providing the care, um, we're not actually making any ground for the people that need the care. So trying to find, so I would say in general, I try to use within the scope of practice that I have, within the knowledge base that I have, um, when you have aches and pains that are just normal aches and pains that everybody has, but you also have, say, cerebral palsy, then I address that just as I would with anybody, trying to figure out what's the root cause of the pain or what's the root cause of this thing that may be different than the disability that you've grown up with. Maybe you've had an injury and you didn't realize it, or
Mhm.
maybe there's something as you've aged that's changed that we need to address that's different than all the stuff that you've known or done your whole life as it relates to therapy. So trying to be smart and ask questions and interview caregivers about daily routines and activities to find out where these little differences are that may have created an actual a sort of injury, and address that is been kind of my role. Trying to identify specialists to help support um, has been a barrier. So uh, an adult or an orthopedic surgeon, so a bone and muscle doctor essentially, who is comfortable and capable to address the comprehensive care of an individual who's grown up with a disability, is hard.
Yeah.
Those pediatric providers kind of understand a trajectory, and they've spent so many years with individuals that they kind of know the path that they've led that's got them to this place. So they have more to use to make good decisions. Now, if you plop yourself down in an orthopedic surgeon's uh, office who doesn't know much about any of that, and honestly, given some of our barriers, doesn't have the time to do all the homework to understand where you've come from,
Mhm.
um, it's hard for them to know what is the good next decision for you? Are you a candidate for surgery? What tests should I even look at to try to figure out what's right and what's wrong? What's your normal development versus what's abnormal for you,
Mhm.
versus the rest of the population that's, what we consider normal range. Because an individual who maybe has um, limbs that don't look, their arms and legs don't look the same as everybody else's. But that doesn't mean that they're not able to use them. They just use
Right.
them differently.
Yeah.
But within what range is acceptable, right? So how should they be using them? Um, and when does a new limitation arise that is not related to their developmental limitation? And how
Mhm.
do we address that thing? So yeah, trying to find neurologists, trying to find orthopedic surgeons, trying to find physical medicine and rehabilitation or physiatrists who have some special training in working with individuals with developmental disabilities is a unique challenge. And you would think with the number of healthcare resources we have here in our city, I mean, we have a lot of health systems here. You would think that if anybody could do it, we could do it here in Omaha. Um,
Yeah.
but it's good. The Special Olympics Nebraska Health Committee, I think, is a great place where they've tried to bring together a lot of those entities
Mhm.
to try to have those conversations about how do we best care for our athletes across the lifespan. And so trying to at least get the players at the table to have those conversations and try to actually come up with tangible solutions. I'm grateful that it's happening here in Omaha or here in Nebraska, and I hope we can get something tangible for you soon. But yeah,
Yeah.
right now it is still just a barrier, and it's kind of like an individual one-on-one problem solving. So somebody comes to me with a problem, I make as many phone calls and emails as I can to different providers to try to find somebody that's a good fit. See if we can get them plugged them in there and see if we can get them the care that they need. But there isn't like a clear pipeline for it. You
Yeah.
have back pain and you have CP, go see
Yeah.
this person.
Right.
That doesn't exist yet.
And then like like, you can't, it's hard to explain CP. Like, you explain the pain, but it's like, you don't have it, so you just don't get it. Like, it's like a different kind of soreness. Like,
Yeah.
I can tell when I get sore, and then I can tell, like, oh, that's my CP pain kicking in. Just
Mm,
gonna keep playing, or and then it's just
yep.
like, oh, you're just sore. It's like, no, I have cerebral palsy, and it's way worse than soreness. So, and then
Yep.
like you have spasms, and like somebody with CP that's more severe has spasms daily, and yeah, it's just
Yep.
hard to explain it to everyone, and so they act like you don't really know what you're talking about. It's like, yeah, dude, I have the disability. I'm pretty sure I know.
Yeah. Not everybody's so confident to speak up though, Wyatt. I mean,
Yeah.
it really takes self-advocates and people to say, uh, no, I'm trying to tell you that this is different than what I feel every day. Yes, I have pain every day. I kind of self-manage that
Mhm.
pain, but what I'm experiencing now is different, and I need
Right.
you to try to help. I need you to understand how this is different and try to help me with this problem. You don't have to address everything I've got. Uh, I've got
Yeah.
a handle on some of this, but this one thing is really, really hard. And not everybody can reiterate over and over and over to that healthcare provider because it's sometimes I'm as guilty as anybody. Like I want to jump to an assumption. I want to try to, I like to solve problems. So I want to jump to a solution for somebody really quick, maybe before I have a full understanding of the problem they're describing to me. Um, so it takes somebody going, hey, wait. No, no, no. I don't think you get it. Let
Yeah.
me tell you one more time.
Yeah.
Um, and I think there's stigma too, where people don't want to complain. People don't want to be seen as weak
Oh
or
yeah.
wimpy or whatever, and so they just go with what the provider says. And I think it takes a good self-advocate. I appreciate the information that you've put out kind of over the years describing the things that you have experienced has helped me kind of understand some of those differences. And I think your discussion with Logan that you had on here was really helpful because it's just another person's perspective.
Yeah.
Um, Stories help me. So hearing people's stories and help me put together pieces of like, okay, there are differences here. There are differences, and I understand there's baseline pain, and maybe we can even address that. But we also need to address the things that pop up when people get hurt, that is apart from what they experience on the day to day.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, I speak up because, like, I just had family members and those siblings tell me, and parents, like, you gotta speak up for yourself. Because I mean, I'll have CP pain, and people will see me like kind of wince when I stand a lot, and I'm
Hmm.
like, oh, I'm fine. Because I just, you don't want to come off weak, because you're the only one in the room with the disability, and you don't want to be treated differently. So it's like, I'm not gonna complain about my
Yeah,
cerebral palsy pain.
yeah,
But then at times it's like, well, I'm kind of limping a lot. Maybe I should go to the doc.
yeah. And then what doctor do you go to, right? That's then kind of the next question of
Yeah, it's like you
who
go
do
to
I
your
seek care from?
you go to your normal doctor, and hopefully they describe you to a doctor that can help you more, or
Mhm.
sometimes you have to wait till it gets worse. Like my back surgery, like I played basketball but really shouldn't have. I could barely shoot. My back hurt so bad, but you had to wait until
Mhm.
it got possibly like the worst, because
Yeah,
that's when
yeah,
the insurance will
yeah.
or doctors will see you. So it just kind of, and I bet that's frustrating for you because you can see it get worse and worse. So it's like, oh, this person just kind of wait till they like are just in excruciating pain, and then they can go to the
Yeah.
doc.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the reality is prevention is the best medicine.
right,
So, things like activities like Special Olympics are great to keep people active. And, sports injuries are real and people will get hurt playing sport. But if you can stay active and stay healthy,
yeah,
to prevent those things happening, that's our best medicine. But the reality is that's another one of our gaps where it's hard to provide preventative care for individuals. I mean, this is kind of for all people, but for individuals who then maybe have a barrier to
mhm,
access to physical activity. I mean, really, our physical therapy clinic is an ideal space for somebody who maybe has a barrier to community activity or needs a little additional support to be active and do the things that they want to do. And I want to be able to say, you don't have to have an injury. You don't have to have a specific problem to be able to come in here and be physically active. Or we need that space in our in our city that people can go and be active with maybe a
Yeah.
little bit of support, or maybe with some adaptive equipment in there or things like that, um, just to allow that preventative care as well, so that people can be active and not end up in that sort of worst place ever, um, before they get the care they need.
Yeah, like Special Olympics, like you were saying, like they have adaptive ways for people to play sports. You got
Mm-hmm,
skills or bowling, you can use a ramp.
mm-hmm,
And then like healthcare, we have like healthy athletes,
mm-hmm,
but that's like in May. So sometimes that's like maybe their only checkup, or like I know for football and soccer this year, we're providing like the COVID booster and the flu
mm-hmm.
shot. And like if we didn't have that special event, would they go and get it, or could they go
Right.
and get it? So it's
Yep.
just like it's really hard. And I learned like when you go to the USA games, like I've done twice, you go through the healthy athletes and it's just this huge thing. And like I think this last time I really paid attention, like, oh yeah, like a lot of us, like, yeah, we really aren't like super, maybe super healthy. And yeah, we're training like we play high school or college sports because we're just playing all year round, but
Mm-hmm.
really our health is it's okay. But it is
Yeah.
hard. So like you said, like just the doctors, and
Yep.
hopefully you can get in. So
Yep.
what would so as a special Olympic athlete, and we train all year round, we played, there's some actually athletes that play 5 to 6 sports.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give them about like training for their sport, and how like just playing the sport isn't what will make you a great athlete? Like you gotta put the health aspect into it as well.
Yep. Yep. I think what's a good analogy? Um, if you took like a beat up old car that you
Mhm.
saw, sitting on the side of the road, and you tried to race it, you could only do so well, right?
Mhm.
Like that car um is not built and does not have the parts, has not been taken care of to be able to race it. So if you are an athlete and you want to compete, and you want to compete at higher levels and try to continue to challenge yourself, if you're not taking care of your health, if you're not taking care of the parts of you that really, really matter and make you go, it's going to be really hard for you to race. It's really going to be hard for you to compete and do the next level thing. So, um, even say you think, okay, well, if I train, whatever that looks like, maybe that looks like lifting weights or running or think, if you train, yes, but if you're not putting the right fuel in, if you're not eating right and taking care of yourself that way, then it's really going to be hard for you to get the best benefit out of that training, because your body needs nutrients. It needs good things in it to be able to build and get stronger and do the things that you want to do. So just generally taking care of yourself and doing the things that getting good sleep as best you can, eating well, meaning good foods, whatever that looks like. Not everybody has access to all the best foods, but trying to pay attention to what you're putting in your body at least, so that it's not all soda and French fries.
Yeah.
That's a good idea, because you need those things. And then um, I think you have to kind of assess um, your desire for competition, and your desire to want to be better. I think um, you know I, the clinic that I work in here, we call the Center for Human Performance Optimization, which is a mouthful and annoying for everyone to say, but it serves as kind of a mission statement and a reminder for me, especially that term optimization, because that's essentially being the best that you can be. So not everybody has the same resources, not everybody has the same body, not everybody can be the fittest athlete in the world, because they don't have everything that maybe their body just isn't built to designed to be that.
Mhm.
But everybody can sort of challenge yourself to be a little better. So for me, as a physical therapist, trying to look at how can I do things better to provide better care? How can I Where can I go learn to understand and do something better? It's the same for that athlete or us as individuals of where are the areas in my life that I can do better? Where can I work and try to be better and not just be satisfied with where we're at or accept that somebody says this is the way it's going to be for you. Um, I think that that's a cop out. I think that that's um, setting the bar too low for you because I think all of us can have opportunities to grow and challenge ourselves to learn and understand more things. And in the world of Special Olympics, that means in movement and physical activity. So where can we look to compete and where can we look to get better?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I really noticed when I trained you, I got better with my right leg, especially like I said, and it's fun because it's like it's not your regular. You gotta stretch. Here's some movements. It's like we're like actually training, like doing cool stuff. Like there was that vest you had me wear.
Hmm. Hmm.
That was pretty hard. Like it honestly kind of sucked. Like it's just like, oh, I don't know if I can do this, but it was cool. Or like when I would try to balance, it was kind of scary, but kind of cool to see like my legs would just shake and I could
Yep.
not.
Yep.
But yeah, like it's cool. Like you guys are like giving us the opportunity to like actually train because normally like
Yep.
there's not training facilities for people with disabilities because they just give it to the athletes that don't have a disability to play high school or college sports
Yep.
or so we
Yep.
really
I,
yeah go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say, you highlighted just the perfect point of what it means to accept a challenge. So when you said it kind of sucks or it's kind of hard, I didn't think I could do it, um, or I felt really weird when I was doing it. To me, those are like golden tickets. Those are the things we're looking for because when somebody comes in and they say, I can't do this, well, have you ever tried? Well, no, I look at it and I know I can't do it. Well, that's not okay. We should at
Yeah,
least try, right?
right.
Let's try and let's maybe try versions of it to see where you can be successful with it. And to me, that's so much better. It's better than bigger, faster, stronger because it changes the way that you think about yourself. So somebody comes in and the classic example is for power training. So where we're getting on a sled and we're trying to be explosive and we try to lift a weight as fast as we can, right? And it's
Mhm.
heavy weight.
Yeah,
Um, but we're trying to be fast. Uh, the first time somebody came in and said, "Well, you want me to lift that weight? You know my legs don't work, right?" And I was like, "Well, your legs, it's not that they don't work. I mean, they can do some things if you give them the opportunity to do them. They don't look like my legs and they don't look like the guy next to you, but it doesn't mean that they can't do some things. So
right.
let's just try it, right? And so you get in the sled and you try some squats in there and oh, you realize, oh, actually I can kind of push with my legs.
Mhm.
Maybe they don't walk, but I can push with them.
Right.
And so then, okay, so let's try putting a little weight on there for you. Okay, push, right? Okay, I get this. Next thing you know, 400 pounds on that sled,
Yeah.
push. And we're lifting 400 pounds with the legs that you thought didn't work, right?
Mhm.
And so for me, it's more than lifting the 400 pounds. It's more than being strong enough to lift 400 pounds. It's about this idea of, I thought I couldn't do something. But when I took on that challenge and I tried it, I realized that I was capable of more than what I was giving myself credit for. And now, if I can do that on the weight sled with Brad, maybe there's something out there in the world that I wasn't trying that I really would like to maybe do that I am capable of. If it might be kind of hard and
Right.
I might have to really work at it, but it doesn't mean I can't do it.
Right.
And planting that seed in an individual to where then they go try some things that they had never tried before. I love that because that's how we grow, trying those new things, trying to take on challenges that are difficult for us and we have to work at them a little bit. Um, that that changes the way that somebody looks at themselves and what they're capable of. it also changes the way the world looks at us,
Yeah.
because they assume kind of or expect what you expect of yourself. Like they'll meet that expectation. If you tell them that your legs don't work, they'll never ask you to do anything with your legs,
Hmm.
and they'll expect that your legs don't work. But when they see you trying to put up weight, trying to push a sled, trying to pull it, do those things and challenge yourself, they think, well, maybe I shouldn't limit what I think this person can do. Maybe I
Yeah.
should go ahead and ask them to do the hard thing and challenge themselves to do the hard thing. And maybe they'll surprise themselves, maybe they'll surprise me, but far better to try and explore options than to just sit, not do anything, or not even try to challenge yourself or challenge the way that people look at you in that way.
Yeah. That's great advice for just like anybody with or without a disability. Just try it and see what happens. You'd be
Yeah,
surprised. So,
exactly. Might surprise yourself, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
thanks for coming on the podcast, Brad. And we really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story and your advice and athletic training. So,
Cool. Thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate you. Appreciate you sharing the message. Appreciate Special Olympics and everything that they offer to our community. Um, and yeah, if we ever get a chance to chat again, or if people come back with questions, I love to be an open book. So the
yeah,
things I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know. If I can give an answer, I'll try to do my best to help people out or get to the resources they need.
awesome. Thanks, Brad.
Cool. Thanks, Wyatt.